Well, good morning and welcome to the Grow Omaha Show. I'm Jeff Beals of NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate Company, and I am your co-host. We are brought to you by D&M Roofing as well, and this is the only show in the metro area that talks about buildings and construction and business expansion, a bunch of fun things for a couple of guys who do commercial real estate work for a living. Well, I'm one of those guys, and the other guy is my good friend and colleague, Trenton Magid.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, it has been a great week, and we have a great show planned for everyone. And Trent, I wanted to follow up on something we talked about last week. You remember last week I told everyone about two new to Nebraska retailers that were going into Nebraska crossing spaces? Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, they were Reebok, which everyone knows as the athletic apparel, footwear apparel store. And I also mentioned Echo. And I've got a little more information about Echo. I may have, this doesn't happen very often, but I may have said something in error last week.
No.
I said Echo.
Write this date down, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I said Echo was based in the Netherlands. It's actually based in Denmark.
I didn't want to say anything.
From our perspective here in the United States, though, that's not all that far away, right? You know, it's kind of all in that northwestern Europe area.
I don't think they'll lose customers over that.
No, but Echo has 2,250 locations worldwide. They operate in 99 countries, and they sell shoes and accessories and small leather goods. So one of the two stores that is going into Nebraska Crossing. Hey, before we go any further, though, don't forget to use your Fast Cash, part of the Nebraska Crossing app. If you don't have the app, super easy. Just get it from the App Store. And if you do have it and you haven't signed up for Fast Cash, just go in there. You might have to refresh the app, click Fast Cash, and then once you do that, always use the credit card that you've associated with your Fast Cash account. If you do that, you'll get 15% back on any purchase. You can use it at all of the stores and retailers at Nebraska Crossing, except for some of the restaurants, but all of the stores. And if, let's say you get all your Fast Cash at Michael Kors, but you want to spend it at their competitor, Kate Spade or Coach, well, you can do that. And it's about as good as it gets, and I've been using it ever since day one that it came out. And basically, I'm getting a bunch of free stuff because of it.
You just have to tap that app, ladies and gentlemen.
Tap that app. And with that, we'll go into our news of the week, which is brought to you by Eagle Mortgage, eaglemortgagecompany.com. And they have now been, as of a few weeks ago, in business for 30 years. So they've figured out a few things, you could say. And they know a lot when it comes to FHA, VA, or conventional loans. Give them a call if you think about buying a new house and make an appointment, I should say, and arrange for a pre-approval letter. So you are armed with the weapon that is necessary in this competitive housing market. You can find them online at eaglemortgagecompany.com. Well, Trenton, some good stuff to talk about here. We have a 4-story, 44-unit apartment building that is planned for a vacant lot at 524 Park Avenue. For a little perspective, that is between Dewey and Jackson, and that would be just a little bit west of Interstate 480. Real nice looking. From the renderings, it looks kind of like a charcoal gray color. Like I said, 4 stories. It'll have parking across the street. What's interesting about this, though, in my opinion, is that this is close to a bunch of other very successful multifamily projects. It is really close to Midtown Crossing, practically across the street from Spaces. I think that was the one where they referred to it as Geeky Cool when it was being built several years ago.
Right on the 680?
Yeah,
or
480 rather.
480, excuse me.
And not terribly far from Triangle Apartments. So anyway, as we see some continued growth in that Med Center area with that anticipated 8,700 job increase over the next several years, I suspect that whole area radiating from the Med Center and certainly going to and perhaps encompassing downtown, you're going to see more and more of those types of infill projects.
Yeah, it can't be said enough, Jeff, where you're seeing ground up and some remodeling of older buildings. But what's exciting about it is not only are people coming back to the urban core, but we're also seeing vertical. We're seeing density. And the reason why density is so important is, number one, we're that much closer to full-service grocery stores downtown. We have more options midtown, and it takes less of a burden on westward expansion. Not that westward expansion is bad all around, but when we have all those services and they're trying to increase bus rapid transit, they're trying to increase other modes of transportation, it really helps the city stay populated and stay centrally located.
Well, yeah, it's a lot more cost effective to put quite a few people on an acre of land in the midtown downtown area than it is to knock over cornfields and build new sewers. Now, don't get me wrong. In the commercial real estate industry, we thoroughly enjoy knocking over cornfields, and I look forward to the next cornfield we get to knock over. But that said, it is a really good use of resources, environmental resources, tax dollars, and everything else to put people in parts of the city that already have the sewers and already have great transportation. And let's face it, the transportation in urban Omaha is way better than it is out west where you and I live.
Absolutely. And we're not talking about 50-story buildings like you see in these overcrowded Manhattan areas and other cities where it's almost unbearable compared to what we're used to here. We're still a very walkable, very open, spacious environment.
Although I would say a lot of Grow Omaha listeners wouldn't mind a 50-story building being constructed in downtown Omaha sometime soon, and we hope.
That'll give us plenty to talk about.
Yeah, the last one was 44 stories, and that was completed in about 2002 or 2003. As we always like to say, our two big pieces of red meat for Grow Omaha listeners are skyscrapers and new restaurants, but unfortunately skyscrapers only happen once every couple of few decades around here. Hey, speaking of the urban core, I want to talk about a pretty cool project that is coming down the pike in downtown. It's called Market Square at Capitol Place. And this is going to open on the ground floor of a 6-story mixed-use building on the southeast corner of 10th and Capitol downtown. That building is called Capitol Place. It is considered part of the Capitol District. And Market Square in this space will have room for about 9 or 10 food or service vendors. So kind of that public market feel. There'll be small spaces. There'll be a big open area, presumably for those businesses that sell food. People would sit there. And this is going to be located, for a little bit of perspective, if you can picture where the Addie's Sports Bar is downtown. So directly southeast of the Marriott, directly northeast of the Hilton Garden Inn. It would be in that building right there. But I think things like that will continue to add a lot more flavor to the downtown area.
No question about it. And since you work so hard in promoting at the time, the Quest Center arena and convention center, the one thing we always talked about is when are we going to see options for convention goers, for arena goers to be able to shop, not just eat, but to shop and be in that whole area. This is adding to those options. And so there'll be food places there, but also retail and convenience items and stuff like that. So kudos to Rodrigo Lopez and his wife for putting that option in there.
Well, now let's go 25 miles north of downtown, and that will bring us to Blair, Nebraska. Real Estate Business Online reported just recently that the $85 million distribution center for Dollar General, which is going to be located on the south side of Blair, is getting underway. This is being built by a company called Clayco, and this thing is going to be 800,000 square feet. Now, it's presumably all one level. So in terms of footprint, this would be even bigger than the 2.4 million square foot Amazon building, because that's 3 or 4 levels. This is just going to be one level. So the building footprint will actually be bigger than the big Amazon building in southwest Omaha. This Dollar General facility will be on 80 acres. Like I said, the south side of Blair. 180,000 square feet of the building will actually be cold storage.
That's the part I don't understand. What do you get? They must have frozen foods.
Refrigerated
stuff like that.
things.
Yeah, I guess frozen foods and things like that.
I think I haven't been at a Dollar General terribly often, but if I remember correctly, I think there are things in coolers or freezers.
There must be.
180,000 square feet worth.
But that's like probably 18 acres under roof.
Yeah, 80 acres of land, and then 800,000 square feet divided by 43,000. And that's a lot of acreage. That's a lot of acreage under roof. So 400 new jobs will be created in that building, opening plan for 2022.
And they're building these around the country. And Clayco is a big developer. And despite what the name says, I believe it's being built out of steel and precast. Not clay.
No fired clay.
No.
Not a pottery building.
You don't have a kiln big enough.
And that is your development news of the week, which is brought to you by Eagle Mortgage, eaglemortgagecompany.com. They know mortgages. Well, here on Grow Omaha, we know a lot about this city in which we talk about, and we have much to share. Several news items coming up in the next several segments. We're going to talk about a couple of urban apartment buildings going vertical. We're going to talk about crossroads. We're talking transportation, and that's just the next segment. So stay with us. You're listening to Jeff and Trenton on Grow Omaha, brought to you by D&M Roofing and NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate. Back in a moment on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to Grow Omaha, the area's only show dedicated to the growth and development of your favorite city. I'm Jeff Beals, sitting across from my co-host Trenton Magid. We represent NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate. That's Omaha's premier commercial real estate company. And we're also brought to you by D&M Roofing. We love Eric Obrumt and his team at D&M Roofing because in addition to being good, fun people, they do a darned good job with both commercial and residential roofs. And I want to make one thing clear. If you own or make decisions for a commercial building, you definitely want to sign up for D&M Roofing's preventative maintenance program, which keeps track of what's going on with your roof, prevents problems before they get big, and just does a great job of protecting your investment. You can learn more about D&M at dndmroofing.com.
It's amazing what they can do with a drone.
That's true.
Like a heat-seeking drone where they can see where there's wetness underneath roofs and things like that. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, drone technology is becoming a huge part of the roofing industry, and for obvious reasons when you put it that way. Well, Trenton, a couple progress updates on a couple of multifamily apartment buildings that are underway in the urban core of Omaha. One of them is the Mercantile, and the Mercantile is the very large building, not terribly tall, probably only about 5 or 6 stories tall, but very large building that is going right on the corner of 10th and Farnham on old ConAgra ground. This is where they tore down the old entrance to the ConAgra campus, and they had the headquarters building, the northernmost building. Those are both gone, and they're extending Harney Street down there. This building will between Farnham and Harney, and it is going vertical. It looks like there's something that is kind of the start of an elevator shaft, and a lot of other little things are sprouting out of the ground, so to speak, in true spring fashion.
That's Heinz Development?
Yes, sir. And so that will be the first of many buildings to come in that area. And before the pandemic, we had heard rumblings that there might be another hotel between that building and the existing Embassy Suites. Don't know if that's still true after the pandemic, but we do expect to be having a complex of several buildings, and this is just the first one. If I remember correctly, it's about 600,000 square feet.
Yeah, that'll be a very walkable corridor as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that will take you down into the dramatically renovated Heartland of America Park. The lake down there, if you haven't taken a peek from a distance, is about half the size that it used to be. The fountain remains, but there's going to be a lot more room for more interactive, active activities, more sporting type activities as opposed to just strolling around a lake the way that it used to be. The other one is progress is coming along nicely on a multifamily building on Leavenworth on the southeast corner of the University of Nebraska Medical Center campus. And this is probably, if I remember correctly, I'd say maybe 38th, 37th right around there. Going to be a nice 5 or 6 story building, big, lots of apartment units there. Presumably will serve the med center. And a great deal of foundation work is done, and you're starting to see some vertical stuff happen in that area. And Trent, I would think that in that whole med center area, you're going to see more and more and more of those types of projects, because if it is true, what we think we're going to hear here pretty soon, that the med center is in line for 8,700 new jobs over the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to need a lot of urban housing in that immediate area for employees and students.
Yeah, we're talking about $2.6 billion. Department of Defense, Homeland Security, Nebraska Medicine, State of Nebraska. There's a lot of stakeholders, and if our information is correct, there should be an announcement in just a few weeks where we'll be the first of 5 cities to get one of these. How would you describe it, Jeff? I know it's 1,200 beds, and it'll take several years to build, with thousands and thousands of construction jobs. But I know it's a self-contained biohazard,
like a bioemergency hospital. Basically, what the feds want to do, and from all indications, the Med Center is in many ways leading this charge. The feds want to have a series of very large hospitals that are capable of very proactively and even preemptively handling the next Ebola or the next coronavirus outbreak, and so that there would be more capability of getting a quick start with some of these future bio threats that could be coming down the pike. And so the Med Center would be a leader. And it only makes sense. You know, the Biocontainment Center that has been around for a long time was one of the key places where Ebola patients went about 5 years ago. So we're going to really expand on that. And that's going to really increase goodness gracious, we can never tell people to speculate in commercial real estate, but I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of people are buying up pieces of land in that Midtown area.
Oh, it's already started in a big way.
Well, hey, looking a little bit to the west, a lot of people have probably driven by Crossroads, and the big center roof of the Crossroads that was over the old food court that kind of looked like a circus tent or other things, that has come down, or at least mostly come down this week. And what a sign that the mall is definitely going away when that centerpiece rooftop is pretty much gone now.
Well, in addition to Dillard's, having Dillard's, that really changed the view from Cass Street. And it's a huge multi-million-dollar project just to tear down what was there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I drove by it middle of this week, and the piles of rubble. I mean, and a lot of people don't realize how in-depth, how time-consuming, and how expensive it is to tear down a large building that is hundreds of thousands of feet.
It was made to stay, and it served its useful life. It was there for decades.
Yeah, and like you said, it was made to stay. It was built to be there a hell of a lot longer than it's been, and but it's like you said, its life is over. Well, hey, speaking of that whole area, we're also seeing progress on some cool TOD type projects, transit-oriented development projects. We talked a couple weeks ago about the apartment complex that is planned for the old Village Inn and motel site at about 78th. We've talked about apartments that are planned south of the McDonald's, a couple blocks east of there. But if you've driven by the east side of 72nd Street, about a block north of Dodge, the Hello Apartments on the site of the old furniture store, those are starting to come along, and a lot of steel has been put in because they're basically taking that one-story building and going to go up another 4 stories. That thing is getting ready to really go vertical fast.
I wonder what's going to happen to the West Lanes building with all those small shops, and it's really showing its age right now. And that one story with looks like there's an apartment on top of it or something like that. It'll be very interesting to see if that trades or gets redeveloped or taken out, more likely.
That's right at the precipice of something important, and here's what I mean. Either A, that land will become so valuable because of everything that's going on in the core of part of the city, and certainly that part of the city, that it gets taken down and something else goes in its place. Or B, they decide that it's old enough, cool enough, and quirky enough that it has to be saved at all costs.
Retro.
Yeah, and then it adds an amenity to the neighborhood. So couldn't you see that going one or two different directions?
Yeah, I could see it, but I think its days are numbered. That's just my guess.
It kind of reminds me of the old Northern Natural Gas headquarters building downtown along Dodge, which is now the Highline Apartments.
Yeah.
About 20 years ago, people would drive by and see that building and say, "Oh my God, that's so ugly. It's so tacky. It looks like it's something right out of the late 50s or the early 60s. That has to come down, or that has to be refaced." And then another 10 or 20 years went by, and all of a sudden people realized, that's a really cool example of some period architecture. That must be saved at all costs. And as it turned out, thanks to new style development, it's now this amazing multifamily property that's
With a
quite
pool on
popular.
top.
Yeah, it's cool area.
Well, and then you've got the Schooler building, which isn't far from there, is in play. At least it's available for a tenant or redevelopment.
Well, that's true. And I tell you what, that little bit of downtown discussion right there is something we're going to be talking about a little bit in the next segment after we have the Noddle Company's real estate development spotlight. So there's much to look forward to. We're going to take our middle of the show break, but when we come back, there's a lot more. So don't leave us. Stay with us. You're going to get a lot of information that you want to know. You're listening to Jeff and Trenton on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to Grow Omaha, the area's only show focused on real estate, construction, and economic development. I'm Jeff Beals, your co-host from NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate, sitting next to my colleague Trenton Magid. We are also brought to you by D&M Roofing, Omaha's premier roofing contractor. It is time for the Real Estate Development Spotlight, brought to you by Noddle Companies. Noddle Companies would be an Omaha-based full-service real estate development company that can be reached at noddlecompanies.com. Well, we want to talk about one of Noddle Companies' developments, and to make that a little bit easier, Trenton, there's actually an article in the World Herald this week. Headline is "Changes in Blackstone Housing Project Surprise, Yet Please Neighbors." And this is about a proposed condo project at 38th and Dewey, so Blackstone Med Center area. We've talked about this before in the past, but this project is designed to bring some very nice ownership units to that part of town. And the original plans called for a building that was several stories tall, maybe 4 or 5, having about 13 condos in it. That has been changed to 6 row houses. And if you look at the architectural renderings, they look absolutely beautiful. They've got about 2 stories, and then the third level would be a rooftop deck. And I would think these things are probably going to go like hotcakes, because there are going to be so many people who want to have those ownership options in properties like row houses in that area.
Absolutely. I think that the time is perfect. When I think of these row houses, I think of the brownstones. When you go to Chicago or New York, you see these old buildings, very historic buildings, and to bring these to Omaha, so modern version of those with rooftop decks in this area, it'll work really well.
Well, we will keep our eye on that project, but going to be a great addition to that whole Med Center area. We were talking about that in the previous segment about how much growth we can expect to happen in that area. And that is your real estate development spotlight, brought to you by Noddle Companies, noddlecompanies.com. Well, hey, we want to talk a little bit about some downtown construction progress. And I happened to drive by Capitol Avenue at about 11th or 12th Street this week, and I saw a big pile driver on the site where the Omaha Performing Arts Society is building that very cool, very flexible music venue. So that means good construction happening, and that music venue is really going to be a nice plus to that whole downtown area.
Absolutely. It'll be flexible where there won't be fixed seats like the Holland Center, although it'll be next door. And just think of the new entrance over the next couple of years. You're going to have the 80-acre park, 90-acre park. It's all going to be tied together. You're going to have the Science Center down by the river. this music venue. There's going to be a number of options. So it's getting more lively down there.
I think that music venue will really contribute a great deal to Omaha, to downtown, to the Capital District. Something I would like? It'd be so cool if they could squeeze in a multifamily building on that block. It doesn't have to be very tall, but wouldn't that add even more energy to an entire square block that would have a music venue on it? And then that would also tie in a little bit to the Capital District next door. But no one asked. No one asked me, but that is my opinion.
I agree. Anything to make it more 24/7, like we've always talked about, that much closer to a full-service grocery store downtown.
Well, and we think that it's probably not too terribly far off when we'll hear something about the Civic Auditorium site just a little bit to the west. And that remains to be seen what it's going to be.
They're getting very close on that.
My guess would be a fair amount of residential, but some sort of activation, some sort of commercial, but primarily residential. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
That would not be a bad place to incorporate a full-service grocery store, actually. We have no idea whether that's where they'll locate, but the longer they go, it'll be harder to find a site to put a 45,000 to 80,000 square foot grocery store.
I agree, and it'll be a good problem to have. They might have to, and it might be more like a 20,000 for an urban area.
Yeah, they can certainly make it smaller.
But that's still, it can be hard to find a 20,000 spot in certain downtown buildings. Hey, also staying in that downtown area, I drove by the future Hotel Indigo, which is under construction in the old Logan building, 18th and Dodge. That is really looking nice. And what's interesting, you're going to have a bunch of these new boutique-like hotels because the Peregrine is in the old World Insurance building. You've got a very cool boutique going into the Landmark Center, the glass building at 14th and Harney. And then this Hotel Indigo. Indigo is a popular boutique chain that has locations in most big cities around the country. And there's going to be a cool restaurant in there called the Pewter Room or the Pewter House or something with the word pewter in it.
We still haven't heard about where the diner was.
Yeah, that was going to be
the National Building.
Yeah, that was going to be the Moxie Hotel by Marriott, and I'm not 100% certain that's still a go. Oh,
it's a postage stamp size.
Yeah, it is a very small lot. What maybe about 9,000 square feet?
Yeah, it's teeny, but they're going to do it, and they use the parking to the north in that city parking garage.
We'll see if that one's going to happen or not. I'm not sure about that. Maybe it's delayed or something like that. Let's hope something goes there because it is an important corner of the old market. And you would hate to lose that little old diner, which was kind of fun, for nothing. So hopefully something will eventually be built there. I'm sure it will be. The other thing with downtown, we keep hearing rumblings that there could be some announcements on the horizon. Now, I know some listeners hate it when we do this because they'll say, geez, Jeff and Trenton, it's so easy to say something might be happening someday. We're not quite that vague, but we're hearing rumblings that there could be a substantive announcement about a building in the downtown area of the office nature even that might not be that far off in the offing.
That's true. When we make announcements like this, the announcements that aren't really announcements, but we're promising future, it reminds me of the most annoying program on television. That's Unsolved Mysteries. Seriously. You go for a half an hour, I don't know. I stopped watching it, but they're never going to solve it. They're just going to talk about it. And I don't know if they ever have like a show later on that says, we finally solved these mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
True crime scene investigation, stuff like that they figure out with DNA evidence or whatever it is 30 years later. But Unsolved Mysteries, it's just annoying.
By the way, I had a similar opinion and experience once. I was watching this show about this theory that aliens came to Earth in the ancient days and built things like Stonehenge and the
I love
pyramids
those
and
ancient alien theories.
I hated it
on History Channel.
I hated it because at the
the
end
guy
of
with the
show,
crazy hair and stuff. It's awesome.
At the end of the show, basically, it dawned on me all they did for an entire hour was pretty much repeat themselves and say things like, "Is it possible? Could it be?" And they never concluded anything. They never proved anything. It was all just a bunch of, is it possible? Could it be?
It's a little deeper than that. It's not like
I don't think so.
the Sasquatch, Bigfoot shows and Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, they
that you
never
would see,
find him.
And we never got it on film. It was unbelievable.
I hate those shows. There was one show where they were trying to find the Lost Ark. Never found it.
Yeah, this is really pertinent to the Grow Omaha Economic Development and Commercial Real Estate Radio Hour.
And that's the end of this segment. When we come back, it is time for the lightning round by Turner Construction. But you have been listening to 3/4 of the Grow Omaha show, brought to you by D&M Roofing and NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate. We'll be back in a moment to finish it up right here on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to the final segment of the Grow Omaha show, and this is what we call the lightning round. It is brought to you by Turner Construction. We call it the lightning round because we cover a lot of things in a short period of time, and we sometimes call it your cocktail party ammunition moment, where you will get the content you will impress your friends and neighbors with when you hang out with them tonight, Saturday night. You know all of this sort of stuff. But Turner Construction is our sponsor for this segment, and we really appreciate them doing that. Turner is building for the future. Came to Omaha to build the massive Papillion Data Center along Highway 50, but they do so much more than that. They've got this real nice office in the Mastercraft building, and they work with companies of all sizes to build outstanding buildings that help those companies meet their mission, make money, and serve their customers. We are so proud to have Turner as our sponsor, and if you are a person who is ever looking for building services for your investment or for your company, please look no further than Turner Construction. All right, first on the docket, Charles Drew Health Center is adding a 6,000 square foot medical clinic at 5920 Maple Street in downtown Benson. That is supposed to open around this summer. It'll target teens and young adults. And the nice thing about stuff like this, Trenton, is it further diversifies that downtown Benson area. Benson's great, but you don't want it to be just bars or just restaurants or just entertainment. You want a little bit more of that daytime feel as well. And so something like this is probably a nice addition.
How about a parking garage?
You know, it's probably a good idea. And a lot of people would probably freak out to hear us say that, because they'll say, well, parking garages commercialize a district that just kind of organically bubbled up. But if you put one kind of off to the side or in the middle and you put a nice attractive facade around it, it might really help those businesses.
Absolutely. You can still carpool. You can still Uber. You can Lyft, whatever. The other thing is, I wonder if Charles Drew Health Center will have like evening hours, because that's when Benson is hopping.
That's when, when teens
schedule,
and young adults need medical services.
Yeah, you can't drink until after you get your shot.
That remains to be seen. More demolition has happened at 44th and Douglas. This is where a 7-story Hampton Inn is planned. Mentioned this a couple weeks ago. They took down a handful of single-family houses. Well, since then, they also took down about a 3-story small apartment building, and they're just removing rubble and debris from the site. So it should be construction ready, I would think, this spring. But that'll be a nice addition. The other thing on the docket, Trenton, I want to give you a chance to kind of brag about some of the deals that you've done recently, because one of them is a brand new restaurant, and then we have another business that's going to be building in town as well. Why don't you tell us about it?
I'm very excited to announce a new restaurant chain coming to Omaha. Very healthy choice. Mitchell Management, who's a major franchisee of Jimmy John's in 4 states, is the area developer and franchisee of Crisp and Green. So crispandgreen.com. You can check out their menu. They're going to 80th and Dodge. This is a drive-through location, about 3,000 square feet. Same building as Penn Station, next to Jimmy John's, the Cox Communications customer service place, just west of Beverly Hills Shopping Center where Jams is. And they're going to start the build-out anytime now. And they offer about 12 different salads, smoothies, bowls, and a lot of options. And with the growth of that MedCenter area, it'll be huge. We got a location picked out downtown, and there'll probably be 3 or 4 more after that. So that's Crisp and Green. And then the other one that's more industrial, just signed a lease for a 20,000 square foot entrant near 118th and Harrison in La Vista, right by Restaurant Depot and the new Streck Laboratories building campus. There's it's called Gexpro, and it's a subsidiary of Rexel, which is an international company based in Paris, a U.S. headquarters in Dallas, and they're an electric supply distributor.
Well, I appreciate you sharing those with us. And
Fresh stuff, Jeff.
Yeah, congrats on doing those deals. Can't wait to try Crisp and Green. I've been eating more and more of those healthy lunch options lately for obvious reasons. I need it. But that'll be a great addition to the marketplace.
Yeah, we're excited about it. They're fun to work with.
Do you know off the top of your head where they're headquartered?
Yeah, Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing that. All right, a Chase Bank branch is coming to 3157 Farnham Street. That's in Midtown Crossing. This is actually going to take that old space that was the Afternoon. Remember the Afternoon right there in the corner? Yeah, that's going to be a Chase Bank branch. And Chase, they recently opened up a bank branch in Exarban.
Beautiful building.
So they're obviously trying to have a retail banking presence here in Omaha. The other thing that is of note in the Midtown Crossing area, everyone knows that Crave went out of business there some time ago. If you look at the south entrance to Crave, where they had kind of the really colorful, almost looked like jeweled entryway, that now has a proof sign on it. Proof is the whiskey and tasting business that had been on the other side of Midtown Crossing. It's moving over to the Crave space. Ray's Buffalo Wings is moving over to that space. It looks like that is well underway. So some big changes in that Midtown Crossing area. Pretty cool stuff.
So Proof is not a bread company, right, where they proof the bread?
You know, bread is great, but I'm more into whiskey and bourbons myself.
There you go.
All right, a newish restaurant. And I say newish because I think it's been open a while, and unfortunately we forgot to report on it. But it looks like a great place. It's called Akarui on the northeast corner. Easy for me to say. Akarui on the northeast corner of 12th and Capitol in the Capital District, kind of a ramen poke place, lunch and dinner, real contemporary look. Appears to be kind of an quick serve, but upscale quick serve type place. I would imagine it's going to do pretty well right there in the Capital District with everything that's happening downtown.
That's neat.
And then finally, good news for travel. The TSA reported 1.3 million passengers went through airports on March 12th in the United States, the most since March 15 of 2020. But despite that good news, we still have a long ways to go until we are at pre-pandemic levels. And that's it for today. That's it for this week. We appreciate you being with us. I'm Jeff Beals.
And I'm Trenton Magid.
You've been listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by D&M Roofing, NAI NP Dodge, and Turner Construction. We'll chat with you again next week at 9 o'clock right here on News Radio 1110 KFAB. If you like this video, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, Grow Omaha is not just media. This is a mission. We are trying to build up Omaha and make it an even better place. We can only do that with your help. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, and family.